A very warm welcome to all our viewers in this next session of our Expert Talk series. Rödl and Partner presents the Lighthouse Talks with our India experts. An income taxpayer receives various kinds of communications from the Income Tax Department. It could be a summon, a notice, or simply an intimation. In our today's session, we try to understand the concept of income tax assessments conducted by the Income Tax Department in India and how the taxpayer should comply with the same. We have with us CA Hitesh Khivsara. Hitesh is a senior professional at Rödl and Partner and a qualified chartered accountant. Hitesh has a practical experience of over 8 years in advising corporate and individual clients on income tax and international tax-related matters at Rödl and Partner. Welcome, Hitesh.
Thank you, Anushrii. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much, Hitesh. Could you please elaborate our today's topic for the benefit of our viewers?
Sure, Anushrii. So an income tax assessment is the process of examination of the income tax return filed by the taxpayer by the officials of the Income Tax Department. This process can take place in different forms. The first one is automated assessment. This is a preliminary assessment by the Income Tax Department through an automated process and usually does not involve any interaction with the taxpayer unless there are apparent arithmetical inaccuracies or incorrect claims in the income tax return file. Next is a scrutiny assessment, wherein the Income Tax Department selects a taxpayer's case and sends an official notice to the taxpayer seeking information and documents in support of the claims made in the income tax return by the taxpayer. The taxpayer has to respond to the questions raised in the scrutiny assessment notice. Another variation of the scrutiny assessment is when there are international transactions between the taxpayer and its associated enterprises. That is when a transfer pricing assessment can also take place. Then there is best judgment assessment. In case the taxpayer fails to furnish appropriate details as called for by the tax office, even after grant of multiple opportunities, then the income tax authority is free to do a best judgment assessment by estimating the income of the taxpayer. Next we have is income escaping assessment or reassessment. In case the taxpayer's case was already assessed, or even if it was not assessed, but the Income Tax Department is in receipt of specific information and has a reason to believe that certain income has escaped from taxation, then they can issue a notice for reassessing the income of the taxpayer. Lastly, we have the classic income tax search, survey or seizure related proceedings, or the income tax raids as they are commonly known. There are set procedures prescribed under the income tax laws for non-compliances and for every category of assessments.
So does the Income Tax Department conduct an assessment in case of every taxpayer?
Well, generally the Income Tax Department entrusts the taxpayers to self-assess and file their taxes honestly and appropriately. That is when automated assessment takes place and a simple intimation is issued to the taxpayer. Many taxpayers are under the impression that receipt of an income tax communication or notice implies some wrongdoing or crime on the part of the taxpayer. That is not the case. It simply signifies that an examination is being conducted to determine if all the income has been properly offered to tax by the taxpayer and whether appropriate tax has been paid in respect of such income. Approximately 75 to 80 million income tax returns were filed in India in the last financial year, and this number will keep growing every year. Naturally, the tax department cannot scrutinize every taxpayer's file, and therefore around 0.5% to 1% of the income tax cases are selected for a scrutiny assessment or any other category of assessment every year. Now, there could be various reasons why the taxpayer's case is being selected for an assessment, like non-filing of income tax returns, claiming higher tax refunds, a revision in income tax returns, entering into high-value financial transactions like investments and spendings, recurring issues in the taxpayer's case for the past year based on which a notice may be issued for the subsequent assessment year, and so on and so forth.
Indeed. So what are the possible outcomes if an income tax assessment is conducted in a taxpayer's case?
If the taxpayer has properly offered its income to tax, paid tax liability and offer necessary information and explanations during assessment, there would be no additional income determined as taxable in the hands of the taxpayer. However, in case of an adverse outcome, there could be an addition to the reported income, reduction of losses claimed to be carried forward, consequential additional income tax demand, statutory interest levies, and last but not the least, levy of penalties ranging from 50% to as high as 200% as prescribed under the income tax laws. In case of significant offences, there could be even prosecution proceedings initiated by the tax department. Therefore, it is extremely important that a taxpayer appropriately addresses all the points and concerns raised by the income tax officials during an assessment proceedings, factually as well as legally.
Looks like there are some serious ramifications here, Hitesh. Can you please give some guidelines to our viewers that a taxpayer can follow to avoid an income tax assessment notice?
That's actually one of the most pertinent questions, and let me elaborate it for the benefit of our viewers. There are steps one can take to minimize the chances of being selected for an assessment. For example, timely filing of income tax returns, proper reporting of income, avoiding any mismatch of information in return of income with the information reported in other forms, etc. Further, even if the case is selected for scrutiny, the same should not be a cause of concern if complete documentation to support the claims made in the income tax returns is maintained. Well-researched income tax positions are adopted in respect of critical tax items. Timely response is given to notice and queries raised during assessment proceedings, etc. Last but not the least, professional help should be sought when it comes to participating in an income tax assessment proceedings, especially because of the introduction of faceless assessments. Also, it is not possible to completely avoid a scrutiny assessment, as some cases are compulsorily selected for assessment by the tax department based on their internal risk parameters. I hope that answers your question, Anushrii.
Yes, absolutely, Hitesh. How can the expertise of Rödl and Partner help our viewers in this regard?
Well, you see, Anushrii, earlier the income tax assessment proceedings were conducted in a non-faceless manner, meaning that the jurisdictional assessing officer used to assess the case of the taxpayer. Now that process has changed. Now, every income tax assessment proceedings, well, most of the categories of income tax assessment proceedings are conducted in a faceless manner, meaning that there is no face-to-face interaction. Therefore, it is very important that all the submissions that are being filed in response to notices during the course of an assessment proceedings are well researched, thorough, and with proper supporting documentary evidence. Thankfully, Rödl and Partner has a strong in-house team of income tax and transfer pricing professionals who can assist to handle any income tax assessment proceedings from any stage.
Thank you so much, Hitesh, for this wonderful discussion that we had today. I'm sure this session will be very helpful and very relevant for our viewers who are trying to understand the latest development in respect of income tax assessment procedures in India.
Thank you for inviting me, Anushrii. I'm always happy and delighted to share my thoughts on this interesting and practical topic. I would be happy to take any queries in this regard.
Thank you so much, Hitesh. Dear viewers, Hitesh's contact details are given in the bio of this video. With that, we conclude our today's session. We would be delighted to remain connected with you via our series Rödl and Partner presents the Lighthouse Talks with our India experts. Thank you for watching our today's episode. Until then, please be safe, grow your business, and play by the rules.